while ago now.
Yeah.
No, that's 1 minute after.
Considering the whole going early thing failed.
Yep. Welcome back, Jedi Enclave. I am Daniel.
I'm Chris.
And if you're watching us on Facebook, it is the first time in a month, because we're now officially out of Facebook jail.
Huzzah.
If you've been following that, you probably know that for some reason, beyond my understanding, we got in trouble. And
I guess Facebook's automated censors thought you said a racial slur
or something. Yeah, I don't know. But we're past it, and we're out of Facebook jail. So welcome back, all of our adoring fans on Facebook. This is, of course, the Jedi Enclave Presents the Now. This is Podcasting Podcast, your weekly live podcast about news relating to Star Wars and fandom and nerdiness.
And sometimes even tomfoolery.
I don't know why that reminded me of this, but apparently they're bringing in Tom Bombadil in Rings of Power.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a weird choice.
Yeah. Well, fans are obsessed with Tom Bombadil
okay.
and the legends surrounding or whatever. Today we're not talking about Lord of the Rings today, by the way. We're talking about Star Wars news. We have some final predictions for Star Wars Acolyte. I binged all of X-Men 97.
Good show.
Yeah, I liked it. We have a My Zero Lie of the Week.
It's been a while since we had one of those.
Yes. And if you're here for the official release of our podcast on Saturdays, time codes are in the description. You may browse around at your own leisure.
Or just watch the whole thing. That's cool, too.
That would be neat, yeah. I would appreciate it. So would Jesus, if you believe in that kind of thing. Connor at the Star Wars Hub, our buddy, thank you. Go and check the Star Wars Hub and Star Wars Veritas out on Facebook. And while you're here, if you're in the charitable mood, I mean, why not, drop us a like and subscribe and share the stream. And join us on Discord, where we have weekly discussions about literally anything. And then, after this, we've been doing our Buzzed Recap series. This week we're doing House of the Dragon Season 1. And I don't know how I'm going to get through it, but we're going to make it work because
that's what the booze is for.
Yeah, that show, not that it's bad, that's hard to get through.
It's dense.
I have the compulsion to reenact every scene because they're all so important in some way or another. Yeah. So join us. That'll be right after this, actually, at 7. And then speaking of 7, Gungans and Dragons Sunday at 7, though, and I'm going to have to put something out to our buddies, but we're going to have to start doing these later, like a little bit later. Like 15 or 20 minutes later.
Okay.
So that's our weekly Star Wars tabletop RPG that you should check out. We did a Freaky Friday last week. Yeah. We all like some of us switched bodies.
My human pilot wound up in the body of a Wookiee Jedi.
Yeah.
And it was really freaky.
My human Jedi is in the body of
Chiss Jedi.
Yeah. Oh, right. I should have said humanoid. In the body of a Mon Calamari.
Mm-hmm.
And
quote unquote Jedi.
Yes. Yeah. That's an inside joke you'd have to get. You have to watch to know what the fuck we're talking about. So join us for that. That'll be a lot of fun. Let's get going. Because if we can get this done early and get started on the House of the Dragon thing early, then
so we doing
that'd
news?
be great. Yeah. So quick Andor news.
Okay.
Adria Arjona was discussing the structure of Andor season 2.
Well, she was discussing her new film, Hitman.
Yeah.
But because she's in Star Wars, whenever she shows up anywhere and does media, they're like, hey, tell us about Star Wars.
We don't care about what you're here to promote. We want to talk about Star Wars. She mentioned that season 2 will have time jumps of roughly 1 year every 3 episodes leading up to the events of Rogue One, which is more or less consistent
we knew that was going to happen.
With like the first season. And they're talking about some technical things like character evolution without like using prosthetics and old people makeup, which they were
because like people change a lot year to year, but they don't change that much physically.
Yeah. And she showered Tony Gilroy with praise because he really is great. Yeah. I mean, the writer and showrunner is fantastic. You might remember season 2 of Andor was pushed back to 2025 because of the writer and actor strikes. And we're eyeing a first half 2025 release. So yeah.
Okay. So the Acolyte had a premiere event in LA the 23rd.
And in London.
Yeah.
Yesterday.
Oh, neat.
Yeah.
And also, on a somewhat related note, a whole bunch of critics have gotten the first half of the season to just view and start hyping up. And the good news is that pretty much everybody who's seen the show seems to really like it.
Yeah. Okay. I want to get into this for a second because the news has been going around, and of course there are a bunch of comments from bot farms about how the reviews were paid off, and only the people who do glowing reviews of Star Wars get access to things and blah 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 blah, and it kind of shows the ignorance of how that industry works.
Yeah. Because Disney is not going to invite people who hate Star Wars to come see their Star Wars thing.
That's the first thing.
Like, use some common fucking sense, please.
The second thing is the way that it works in Hollywood, and the most recent proof of this is Dune Light Part 2, Pseudo Dune Part 2, Rebel Moon.
Oh, right.
So if they have something they don't think people will review well, they just don't let them watch it until it comes out.
Yeah.
Right? So if they were really afraid that Star Wars Acolyte sucked, they wouldn't have people come and watch it.
Like, nope, you don't get it until it comes out on Disney Plus.
Yes. So the fact that they're showing early, early screenings of this is actually pretty, it's good news. Yeah. I got a couple of reviews here that I wanted to read. One of them is from Perry Nemiroff, who is a movie critic that I really respect, that used to be, I don't think she is anymore, but used to be on Collider, on their Jedi Council weekly Star Wars show before they nixed it. She's great. You should check her out. I've seen 4 episodes of #The Acolyte, and thus far, it's a very, in asterisk, big winner. The cast of characters, the heavy emphasis on practical effects, the stunts, how they're exploring what it means to be a Force user, and how the Jedi Order operates. It's all working quite well for me. Amanda Stenberg is the headliner a story like this needs. She's got her hands full with this one, and she soars tackling the challenge. I could also watch her command the screen during fight scenes for hours. The precision and grace with which May fights makes the combat exhilarating to watch, but also function as beats that speak to who she is and how she chooses to operate in a given moment. So really good praise for Amanda Stenberg. And then Joseph Deckelmeyer said, Star Wars Acolyte gave me Kill Bill vibes. Every episode left me wanting more in a good way. We've seen so much about the fall of the Jedi, but this show explores what the Jedi were like during peacetime, which is quite frankly fascinating. And tagged Amanda Stenberg is outstanding. So,
a bunch of other reviews have just generally praised the fight direction and the
lots
stunts,
of action.
The action,
like I said, this is good news. I think. Now, it won't matter how good it is, and I'll probably bring this up when we do our predictions. There will be a lot of online hate for this regardless. Yeah. So
there is a certain segment of the population that will see non-white male people in Star Wars and say, "Oh, it sucks. Yeah. It's woke. Fucking fuck Disney."
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I saw one and was like, "Oh, well, it looks like Star Wars doesn't have any white men in it anymore." And I replied and said, "Good." Because I don't necessarily believe that, but you know what? I wouldn't care.
If it pisses off the worst people in the world, go with it.
I'm a little bit trollish on our Jedi Enclave account on Facebook.
A little bit?
But
I know you. You do not do a little bit of trollishness anywhere.
I do it in a way that won't get us, unless I'm doing a live show that gets mistook for hate speech. Yeah. So like my private profile, I've gotten 30-day bans a lot. And I make sure to carefully avoid that on the Jedi Enclave account, but I still get as rowdy as I can. We're gonna stick on the Acolyte for just a bit here.
Is it the Mike Zeroh Live of the week?
No, that's coming up.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Disney has been doing a lot of TV spots for the Acolyte, running up to the premiere. And they've been doing interviews with the actors and Leslie Headland, the showrunner. And they had this great conversation about the Jedi having a monopoly on the Force and a lot of the philosophical deepities of the Jedi and how they interact with it and everything. And Headland was talking about her decision to set the series 100 years before The Phantom Menace, which was more or less to explore Sith lore. And then she said definitively Darth Bane won't be mentioned in season 1, but she had originally considered it. And the series aims to avoid canon conflicts. And they do that by exploring a period with fewer legacy characters, which right now, Yoda, and unless Ariel Poof will still be alive. Like some of those like the Jedi Council guys will still be alive.
Long-lived races.
But we don't know much about them anyway.
I mean, Yaddle's probably around.
Right. And this is, like, they're just characters we don't know much about, so like there's not a lot of canon with them necessarily to offend. I do have a little bit of an issue with something that Leslie Headland said, because maybe I don't understand it very well. But she's talking about how she was like, look, when you watch episode 1, Qui-Gon Jinn knows immediately on Tatooine that Darth Maul is a Sith. Yoda knows at the end of the film there's always two. There's the Master and the Apprentice. And the reason that they would know these things is if they encountered them within the last 150 years.
Which contradicts Ki-Adi-Mundi, the Sith haven't been heard from in 1,000 years.
Right. So I would disagree with her on this.
Yeah.
I think that probably a better way to do that would be that the Sith were a very important villain for the Jedi. They would have reading material on it, but I don't think a lot of people would be very interested in it because it's a threat that was so long removed. And it's just something Yoda would know. And it's probably something Qui-Gon would know too, because he was kind of a fucking nerd, right?
Yeah.
That's like he was kind of into reading stuff about that. So and that's fine.
So if I can attempt to interpret what she was saying, I think it's plausible that if the Jedi encountered some type of at least semi-organized dark force users in 100 years before they ran into Darth Maul, there might be an uptick in interest in that.
The Google searches go up a little bit.
But like I said, Qui-Gon's a fucking nerd, so of course he would know all about the Sith.
He would know about it because Count Dooku would have made him read about it.
Presumably, right after that report, Yoda toddled his ass down to the archives and started looking up some stuff on the Sith. He might have found a BuzzFeed article, the top 10 things to know about the Sith. Always a master and an apprentice.
Yeah. Okay, so this is a really good point. And now that you're saying it, a really good explanation for this would be Yoda, after hearing about what happened, maybe doesn't buy into it totally.
Because Yoda gets frustrated with Qui-Gon sometimes, but he knows that he's smart and capable and trustworthy.
So maybe Yoda doesn't necessarily believe that who they ran into is a Sith, but
just in case,
he goes and looks into it. As a result, his eventual Padawan Count Dooku would look into it, and then his Padawan Qui-Gon, because all the weird esoteric prophecy shit that Count Dooku was addicted to, Qui-Gon got addicted to as well, just because Count Dooku was constantly giving him stuff to read. So that actually could totally make sense. One other thing, apparently the masked villain was partially inspired by Darth Traya.
I'm on board with it. She's one of my favorite non-canon Star Wars characters.
I like Darth Traya, except for when I'm playing the game as a character.
And then she pulls out the 3 fucking lightsabers.
Or her just constant fucking lectures on.
Well, she's a teacher.
I know, but
that's what she does.
You know what I find myself doing most of the time when I play through KOTOR?
Skipping her.
Well, not skipping, just when she's done, be like, "Shut up, Kreia," and then say something that'll piss her off.
Shut up,
Kreia influence lost. So yeah, this is coming out. A lot of these questions will be moot in a week, or at least some of them, because we'll get to watch the show.
We will know 25% of the answers, maybe.
Yes, probably fewer than that. Let's do our Mike Zeroh lie of the week.
Yes, let's.
We don't do this every week,
but only when it's deserving.
Yeah.
When there's a really fucking big lie out there that's just incredibly stupid if you apply the least bit of critical thinking.
Now, okay. we could do a Mike Zeroh lie of the week every week. Because Mike Zeroh lies every week.
But that would kind of devalue it.
Yeah, and right, and I got to wade through Mike Zeroh bullshit.
Yeah, and I would not wish that upon my worst enemy.
So this one's relevant because Star Wars Acolyte is coming up, which is interesting because the lie of the week that we're examining today is that Star Wars Acolyte was canceled. So and there's an evolution of this lie that we're going to follow.
Lay it on me.
We're not going to spend a ton of time on this. And I want to make sure that I introduce all 7 or 8 of you who are watching, who aren't writing hateful comments, to a couple logical things that you might not have known about.
Okay.
So it was first reported a while ago that Leslie Headland, every one of these evolutions involve Leslie Headland is fired.
Ah, yes.
And it very much mirrors the Kathleen Kennedy is fired.
Right.
So the original from a trusted source at Lucasfilm, Leslie Headland was fired and Star Wars Acolyte was canceled entirely.
When was this?
Before it started filming.
Okay.
So filming started.
Not fired, not canceled.
And she's still in charge of it. So they, of course, moved the goalposts.
Yep.
Okay, so then it became Leslie Headland has been fired because every version of this has to include Leslie Headland was fired. And they're scrapping what they filmed and it'll never actually be broadcast.
Okay.
So production, marketing started to ramp up. There are interviews with the stars and the showrunner, including like Leslie Headland. So what do we have to do?
Which is not something that you would expect if everything was being scrapped.
Right. Now, I will say, and I wish I was making this up, I encountered 3 or 4 people on social media in the last week who were convinced that on June 4th, that show is not coming out. And that they're all lying about it.
Why? Like, what would Disney have to gain from advertising a show that's not going to come out?
I mean, that's a lot like asking a flat earther why. Or a QAnon crazy why.
Most flat earthers are at least aware that they're taking part in a bit.
Yeah,
like that.
I agree. I actually agree with that. I don't think that. I think it's just exclusively a troll movement.
Pretty much.
And I don't think any of those guys actually believe any of that shit. But like literally ran into 3 or 4 people who were like, yeah, the show's actually not coming out next week. And it's like, you understand how falsifiable this becomes in a week, right? Like, what are you going to say in a week when the show drops? There are people who have already seen the first 4 episodes. Are they all lying too? Well, of course they are, because they're in Hollywood.
They're being paid off by Disney. Which, yes, Disney has enough money to, but why? Like, what do they have to gain from this?
Yeah. Okay, so production ramped up, interviews, the release is impending. What do we do? Gotta move the goalposts. So Leslie Headland has been fired. The talks about season 2 have stopped effectively canceling the show going forward.
So they couldn't cancel season 1, so they're just going to cancel season 2.
And with the proviso, unless the show does well with ratings. Which, by the way, fucking duh. Do you not know how Hollywood works? That's how it is.
Yeah.
You have a show, people like it, they will make more of it.
The only reason
this is not prophetic. This is
the only reason Rebel Moon Part 2 happened is because it was already fucking done. Like, Part 1 came out, shat the bed. If there was any way that they could have written off Part 2 and made money off of it, they would have done it. Because it would have made more than what came out.
So it was an interesting thing about the season 2 talks of effectively. So it turns out Leslie Headland has actually met with Pablo Hidalgo to discuss adding new characters in further seasons.
Story group, right?
Yes. And she has publicly said several times that they plan to have a multi-season run. And by all accounts, that is what she's preparing for. To be fair, they have not greenlit the second season.
Sure.
I expect that they will.
If what we get is as good as all the reviews and the critics are saying, I fully expect it.
So I want to introduce you to a couple of. We turn this into a little bit of an education thing.
Okay.
Now this is going to go way over the heads of most of the people who are like, meh.
Sure.
That's fine. The first is the moving the goalpost fallacy, which is
you've mentioned a couple times.
Which is you make a prediction. You see this a lot in religion. You make a prediction, the world's going to end Jesus
wrong.
or Thor or whoever's going to come back.
The world keeps spinning.
Yes, that date comes and goes, and you say, "Oh,
what I actually meant was
my calculations were incorrect," or
we have 100 more days.
Right, you misinterpreted what I said. What I actually said was this, which is the moving goalpost fallacy. And the other one is the Texas sharpshooter fallacy, which people like Mike Zeroh excel at. And the Texas sharpshooter fallacy goes like this: you take an arrow or whatever projectile weapon you wish. You fire it in random succession everywhere. You take a marker and you walk up and you draw bullseyes around what you already shot. So you throw so much shit that you can as you can, and
they say this was significant.
Right. So you count the hits that you made, and you ignore the misses. And with Mike Zeroh and with all of these grifting hate baiters on YouTube, all of them have way more misses than hits, but they never talk about them again, right? Because they're grifters. It's a fucking scam, right? So don't buy into this bullshit. And this is the thing: if Star Wars Acolyte is bad, if we think it's bad, we'll say it's bad.
We'll fucking say so.
Yeah, because because
contrary to popular belief, we're not actually Disney shills.
Yeah.
Like we could be if Disney would just fucking write us a check. Yeah. It would be less than they'd think.
I would chill for Disney if they paid me enough.
Yeah.
They don't though.
They don't.
Yeah.
So if it sucks, we'll say it sucks.
Yeah. Like if they paid us, they would probably buy us more subscribers.
Yeah.
Hopefully. So there's that. Let's do one more Acolyte thing.
Okay.
And we'll move on. So Star Wars The Acolyte comes out next week on Tuesday, which if you're watching this on our Saturday release will be in just a few days. We will, of course, be watching them and doing an after show the next day. And we'll look at every scene, every piece of dialogue, every theory, everything. We'll talk about it. So I thought it would be kind of cool to take a roundup of maybe some final theories that we have about what's going on. And I've listed out a few. I don't know if you have any generally.
You just go ahead and I'll fill in whatever comes to mind.
Okay. So the first thing is that I've watched all of the trailers and I've watched, I think, all of the TV spots. And it is very clear through the editing of the trailer that we are meant to believe that May, who's played by Amanda Stenberg, is the person who's killing these Jedi, right? And that she's the bad guy. And with Jedi Master Soul being like, let me be the one to bring her in, and that whole thing with her and Carrie-Anne Moss fighting and shit. My first theory here is that despite what the trailers will have you believe, she's not the one killing Jedi, and she's not a bad guy. I think that she's not a Jedi anymore. She probably walked away from the Jedi. But I think that what's most logical to me is that she discovered the plot first and maybe is like getting there to each one right as they're being killed or perhaps right after. Which
makes her look suspicious.
Right. And then, of course, because she doesn't trust the Jedi, she would fuck off. And, so I think we'll find out that she's not the bad guy.
Okay. My sort of counter theory to that.
Okay.
At the end of the season, because we know that this was envisioned as a multi-season thing, I think she's going to be somewhere in the middle, like pulled both ways. In that sort of middle ground temptation spot. Sure.
Temptation makes for a good story beat.
Yeah. Also, I think Carrie-Anne Moss's character is probably going to die.
I'm going to get to that.
Yeah.
I agree. I don't disagree. So the Coven of Witches that she's from, I think, also won't be adversarial.
Is she part of the witches?
She was.
Oh, okay.
As a child, from what we can tell from the trailers.
Then the Jedi showed up and said, "Hey, come with us."
Actually, what they did was Jedi Master Soul walked up to a tiny little child and handed her a lightsaber and said, "Wouldn't this be cool?" Because we all know the Jedi are very responsible.
hey, watch out! Don't chop your arm off.
This is why Jedi aren't allowed to marry. No. It's because
they're so fucking stupid.
Yeah, they're like, you'll have kids and then they'll die. So I think that we'll find out that this Coven of Witches, I think we'll have deep philosophical differences with the Jedi over this whole, like, the Force is a thing that exists that you don't own or control, and it's unfair for you to go after the people who can access it who aren't Jedi.
To go after our children and say, hey,
or even us for having a connection with the Force or whatever. So I think that those guys will end up being a little more complex than just baddies, right?
I think we might, if this isn't a outright Dathomiri Coven of Witches, I think
it is not.
See some connection made, just because like this is just on my mind after Ahsoka, how the witches are like actually exist in both galaxies and.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. You're right.
Maybe just witches are a universal constant,
or it's just what they call different sects of people who gather, who can access the Force.
Could be.
I think most of the Jedi we've seen in the trailers will end up dead. I was reading through some of the character descriptions. So like Kelnaka, the Wookiee Jedi, his character description is that he's a Jedi master who is more or less exiled himself to a forest planet, and he's a loner.
Okay.
We don't know why. It could be some kind of.
That would seem to make him a good murder target.
Right. I think
you're just going around killing Jedi.
I think he might be one of the targets. I think that if they go the direction I think they're going with this bad guy with the red lightsaber, I wouldn't get attached to too many of them.
Counter theory, I think Daphne Keen's character definitely survives
for season 2.
And this is just based on meta knowledge because there are a few things that are like beyond the pale for movies and TV, and killing a child is one of them.
Yeah, unless you're Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
I think her character and the Squid Game guy's character probably makes it as well.
Probably.
Yeah. So the big question is, how is this going to jive with the now infamous Ki-Adi-Mundi line from episode 1.
We had talked about before about how it's possible that all the Jedi who found out there were Sith just fucking died.
Yeah, which would be great because then,
it neatly ties everything up.
Dead men tell no tales. Or, and we've talked about this as well, that maybe all of them live, maybe they don't, but they report back to the Jedi what they saw. And they say the same thing that Ki-Adi-Mundi challenged Qui-Gon with.
Yeah, the Sith have been extinct for 900 years. There's no way.
They've been extinct for nearly a millennia. You are wrong, which is exactly what they said to Qui-Gon, right? I like this option better because I think it kind of fleshes out the rot.
The hubris.
Yeah, and just how kind of decayed the Jedi have become with their believing that they're invincible.
Yeah, because remember, this is the Jedi at the peak of their power.
Yeah. Couldn't possibly have not sensed the Sith coming back.
Yes, and it's very easy to believe that an incredibly powerful organization like that just doesn't believe they could be threatened by anything. Yeah.
So I like that option better. I think there's a lot more depth for the storytelling than just there are no survivors. I would like a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Because I would love to see a bunch of, even though they look really cool.
Maybe episode 8 ends with Lee Jung-jae's character coming back and telling the Jedi, hey, there's Sith.
All of my friends are dead.
All my friends are dead. It was the fucking Sith. Let's get the cavalry and go fuck them up. And Yoda's just like, nah.
No,
you're wrong. No.
He does the
Sith, no here.
Okay, so I think this show is definitely getting into the Sith. Maybe not by name.
I think we talked about this when the title was very first released all those years ago, but Acolyte means something kind of specific in terms of Star Wars.
Yes, and so we might not get a like, oh my god, it's a Sith, or the guy taking his helmet off me like, I'm the Sith, right? like nothing like that. But I think that there will be enough inference for us to understand without the characters knowing, or without the right characters knowing, which would be good storytelling.
Maybe a nice little low male choir sequence at some point.
Yeah, a little bit of Palpatine's theme. Yeah. It's like a low E you just went down to.
Yeah.
I don't have a perfect pitch. Anyway, so there are expanded universe options for this, and then there is like a new approach, right?
So Darth Bane, because we mentioned it earlier, Darth Bane is explicitly canon now, right?
Yes.
Okay.
But he's not going to
they're not going to mention him, but that's an option for the future, I guess.
In this time frame, if we're going with, I think, James Lucino's Plagueis.
I think we did the math.
Right. Well, hold on.
Plagueis would be a young kid at this point.
Yeah, it was James Lucino, right?
I think so.
I might not have that book up.
Palpatine wasn't even alive, so it would be Plagueis and his master.
Right. So, Darth Tenebrous would be the really obvious because Plagueis would be like 15.
Yeah.
And
it's maybe a little. So Tenebrous we know is a Bith, and they have kind of distinctive shaped heads, which doesn't really look like the masked guy with the red lightsaber. Which isn't to say
they could change his species.
Yeah, that'd be really easy because a Bith Sith seems kind of unintimidating at first glance.
That's kind of what I think. I think that's what the appeal is.
Yeah,
you're like, oh my god, shouldn't you be playing some jizz? And he's like, no, I'm gonna fucking kill you with a lightsaber. Or it could be an acolyte like an apprentice of Tenebris's that dies.
Yeah,
that maybe the show ends with him finding his other apprentice, Darth Plagueis.
Yeah.
The new approach that they could do, if they necessarily didn't want to dig into the EU very much, they could scrap Tenebrous entirely and get a new Sith character. But they would have to keep Darth Plagueis.
Yes,
because he's the one that's mentioned.
He's established canon.
Right. So they have to do Darth Plagueis can't, he doesn't have to be in Star Wars Acolyte, but he is a part of the story.
Yes.
Right. So
he's part of the connective fiber between the prequels and Acolyte.
Yeah. So they can go either way with that. And then my last prediction here is that I think Star Wars fans will love this. And if I'm wrong, I'm happy to be like, yeah, I was probably a little too optimistic, and that's fine.
I think there's a decent chance that this pulls an Andor and is appealing even to people who are not necessarily Star Wars fans.
Maybe bring some more folks in.
Yeah, because Andor showed if the writing is really fucking good and the production value is there, you can make a show that appeals to people outside of your traditional fan base.
Yeah.
If the mystery is really good, if the fight scenes are really compelling, I think this has a chance to pull in an audience that wouldn't ordinarily watch Star Wars.
Yeah, I think you're right.
That does rely on word of mouth, which is always a bit of a crapshoot, but
it's already kind of started.
Yeah.
With Acolyte. And the other side of that is that every time you go into the comment section of anything having to do with this, you're going to see a ton of hate. That doesn't mean that a majority of people hate it. It just means that the people who are there who are likely
who care the most to comment.
Yes.
Or just bots.
I was about to say, likely not even Star Wars fans. We've done a little bit of science on this in the past. A lot of comments like that toward fantasy fandoms are from people who are politically allegiant to one particular side, who are there to bitch about the insert buzzword here, the CRT or whatever the fuck, having probably never seen very much of that property, right?
Either that or they have IPs in Russia.
Also probably, because that's the thing they did with The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
So that is entirely possible. Let us know in the comments what your last minute theories and things are.
And predictions, and tell us if you think we're full of shit.
Yeah. Oh, they will. They'll say it in the comments. They'll say something about,
Just
Chris,
show your work.
Yeah.
Cite your sources.
Give me a good logic. Give me a syllogism.
Yeah.
Give me a major and minor premise with a bi-connecting word and a conclusion. You want to get my panties to the ground? Bring some fucking logic to the game. Chris says, not you, Chris, another Chris, somewhere else in the galaxy says, "May the force be with you, Daniel and Chris. I am so excited for the Acolyte. I hope you're both having a great night. Also excited for the High Republic book, Temptations of the Force." I started a High Republic deep dive, and then immediately got distracted by it, by other stuff. Well, Chris, thanks for joining us. I appreciate that. There's one thing before Before we get into that, I want to say a quick thing. This came up in a conversation with a couple people, and I wanted to make sure for like the 7 or 8 people who watch this, kind of where I and where we as Jedi Enclave stand on this, because we know that Pride Month is coming up next month. I'm going to say out of the bat, being a proud gay man, I support wholeheartedly the efforts of that. But you will not see Pride memorabilia on our page. And the reason for that is just like every other pet cause, it's been kind of co-opted by the rich and the powerful to sell more products. And it makes me queasy, and I hate it. And I don't want there to be even a chance that someone would mistake one or both of us trying to exploit that very, very important thing to get extra views or to get a bigger audience. And I know people who have the opposite stance of that, like our friend Connor at the Star Wars Hub. Not only does he put on Pride memorabilia for June, he takes every comment that's homophobic on all of his posts, and for every comment adds a week. So like if you go and look at the Star Wars Hub's profile picture, it's had the Pride thing on it for a while because he adds an extra week.
I was going to say, I don't think he's ever going to change away from that.
I think he knows that. I think that's the point. So I think we all, like, you have it from me that I will always speak candidly about the issue. I'm gay. I believe not only are gay rights human rights, I believe that there are people who are actively trying to subvert that. And I'll also be the first person, both of us would be the first person to also say that like trans rights are human rights. And that's not something I'm afraid of. I'm not afraid of the flack from that, because it's all kind of the same thing now, where like there is no discourse over the issue. It's just you're a pedophile in the comments, which there will be comments like that in this video. And like instead of doing all the Pride stuff, in fact, we usually don't even fly a flag here. We'll donate to gay causes, specifically to help gay youth, people, kids who are kicked out of their houses for being gay or trans, or queer in some way. And like the first time, like even mentioning that, we'll get a fucking groomer or a fucking pedophile. And it's important to call this what it is, which is an organized effort to lay a foundation so that when the time comes, you have a rationalization to commit violence against gay people. That is what it is. Because when the time comes, all you have to say is, oh, they're a pedophile, therefore I can kill them. And if that sounds maybe a little dramatic or a little melodramatic, it's not, because that is what what it is.
It's dehumanization.
It's
very deliberate and targeted dehumanization.
And I mean, I've been the recipient of that, even on this page, having had death threats involving language having to do with my sexuality. Ironically, a lot of those messages go into explicit sexual detail, which I think probably tells more about the person sending it than it does to me. So if that's the kind of person you are, I'll just say this. I've been a martial artist since I was 6. I trained with the world's best pedagogue in my art. I'm trained in more than one, actually. I have weapons training. I have a Ford card. Every man, except for me pretty much, in my family on either side are either military, police. I have a family member that's retired Secret Service. I learned to shoot at a very young age, and I'm better at it than you. And that's going to piss some people off because people hang their whole identity on guns. And hearing a gay man say that he shoots better than you is going to enrage people. And good, because I hope you feel that way. I also have a 90-pound German Shepherd who would just as happily attack you if he thought you were trying to harm my partner or me. Mm-hmm. So if you feel like the tough guy behind the keyboard, that's fine. But know that, like, if that time ever comes and you've worked up to that rationalization, you'll be sorely, sorely disappointed at the results. Mm-hmm. Because not all of us are. I'm a pacifist, except for when you come knocking on my door. And I know a lot of gay people who are also the same way. We're not, a lot of us, a lot more than you believe, a lot of us own guns because we know, we read the room a while ago, and we understand what's being done, and we understand the purpose of all of this hate speech, which is to make it easier to kill gay people in the future. So, and if you're the kind of person who is just as happy to celebrate gay pride, thank you so much. Like, it means a lot. There's a reason that we celebrate this, and it's because it's important to remember what we're currently doing to gay people, and in the past, a lot of the terrible shit we did as well. Mm-hmm. So
I just have two things to add to this
sure.
real quick. Number one, fandom, Star Wars, whatever fandom you're into, belongs to everybody, regardless of your sexual orientation, your sexual identity, your race, your religion, whatever. Mm-hmm. You are always welcome here with us.
Yeah.
Like, we won't chase you away unless you're an intolerant bigot.
Yeah.
In which case,
we chase pretty fast.
Yeah. Yeah. But as long as you're not one of the worst people in the world, you're welcome here.
Yeah. We're actually we're pretty easy to get along with. Yeah. Actually, me a little less. I'm told I have a quality. I'm told I'm dry, but you get what we're saying. I felt like it needed to be said. It's probably the only thing other than when it's mentioned organically that I'll probably mention it, because my partner and I decided to celebrate in a different way. Mm-hmm. So
number two.
Oh yeah.
This is arguably more important. The first Pride was a riot. Look up Stonewall. You'll be glad you did.
Yeah, it's the whole reason we do the whole gay pride thing. Mm-hmm. All right. Speaking of queer coded, let's talk about X-Men.
Hey, that's a good transition.
Yeah. So X-Men 97. So this show finished a couple weeks ago, I think. I didn't have the chance to watch it until this week.
You just weren't interested in it. Like, let's be real. You don't really like X-Men.
That's true. I was going to say that at the top. Like when those movies came out, I saw them, but because my friends wanted to see them. I've never cared that much about X-Men.
That's fine.
That being said, I had a good time watching it. Yeah. I thought it was great. I thought if we were to off the top of my head, that main theme slaps.
Yeah,
like it's really, really good. I think the animation is good.
They put so much work into the things they didn't. They changed the title sequence for every single episode.
Yeah.
Did you notice?
Yes, I did. To include different characters.
Yeah, include different characters and show different sequences depending on how the plot is progressed.
Yeah, I like how we might get in a little bit of spoilers. Mm-hmm. I like how they lampshade, like in the final 2 episodes, the fact that everyone can fly. Except for Jubilee.
Yeah. And
she's like, why is it everyone can fly? And then like Sunspot or whoever is like, oh, by the way, I can fly too. I thought that was pretty hilarious. I find myself attracted to Nightcrawler, and I can't explain why. And I'm not sure if that makes me a furry, because he has a tail.
I don't think so. I mean,
furries, let me know.
Furries are generally more explicitly animalistic, and he's like some weird demon thing.
Yeah. I don't know. There's something about it. Like, it's like, damn, dude.
I would not consider Nightcrawler furry, but I'm not a member of that community.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I'm very ignorant toward it. But also found myself extremely attracted to Gambit.
Okay.
Yeah. Who they found every opportunity to have him either in like a
crop top
or just entirely shirtless. And I was like, I see you're going after me.
They knew exactly what they were doing.
And I know a bunch of my fellow gays too who were really, really into older man Magneto.
Okay, yeah.
Which I wasn't necessarily super into, but like I get it. The dudes were like really buff. So the story is a continuation of the shit that happened
in the old show.
Yeah. So like I think at the end of that show, Xavier dies, right?
Well, he is shot and taken to space to have some space medicine done on.
Right. That's one of the things I would put in the things I don't necessarily like about the show in general. And the complaint I have here is about an element that exists to make it easier for kids to watch. And I totally get that. Mm-hmm. I'm not looking at this through, I'm not critiquing it through this is an adult show kind of thing. But every time, with one exception, every time someone died or lost their powers, it never stuck. Which is the nature of comic books. Yeah. Right? I think Gambit dies and I think stays dead.
Yes.
Right?
So far. If you can read the lines on the wall for season 2,
if you can read Magneto's headbands coming out, yeah. So Storm loses her stormy powers.
I don't think this is a kids show issue because I don't think this is a kids show at all. I think it's a comics issue.
Yeah, maybe that's what I meant.
I think this is a show explicitly for the adults who were kids when the first show was on TV.
Yeah, I get it. And that was my major gripe. Was that it's like the same when everyone's like, oh, Mace Windu can come back, or Cad Bane is going to come back because there was a blinky light on his
death has to mean something, or else it doesn't mean anything.
Every time something like that happened, like they do a 9/11 on Genosha. Genovia is the country, the fictional country from Princess Diaries.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Which is why I thought that. They did a 9/11,
mm-hmm.
and
one of my favorite episodes of the whole
season. It is really, really good, and it has a great emotional impact.
Mm-hmm.
Except for the fact that none of the people that really died in it actually died.
Gambit died.
Did he? I mean, Magneto apparently died as well, and didn't.
I don't think Magneto ever actually died.
I thought they all thought he was dead.
They thought he was dead.
I thought we were supposed to think he was dead.
You were supposed to think he was dead,
right.
but he never actually died.
I know, that's the point I'm making, is that we were made to believe it, and I was like, I don't believe it.
Yes, and yeah, that is a definite issue.
I love how Nightcrawler, because of what he is, he's the one that proceeds over the funeral because he's the demon guy or whatever. Well, he's the religious guy.
He is. I believe he's an ordained priest.
Oh, is he actually? I thought.
So,
okay,
yeah.
So that's the thing is, I don't have an encyclopedic knowledge about.
Yeah, he is a devout Catholic.
Oh, okay.
In just about every incarnation of that character.
Boo! I don't love that. He's got some major twink energy, though.
Yeah.
You should stay away from priests.
The other episode I really, really liked was number 2, Magneto at the UN.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically for everything that happens after Storm gets shot.
Yeah.
He pulls him up into orbit, says, I could kill every single one of you, but I'm trying real good to be good for my buddy Xavier.
Yes, and also I'd mess up this fucking luscious hair that I have. What was the other thing I was going to mention too? The one thing that attacks Storm when she's like trying to reconnect with her powers.
Yeah, the evil demon thing
with the head that turns all the way around, and that was really creepy. That kind of freaks me out. I thought it was interesting that in Charles Xavier's last will and testament, he's like, "Oh, the X-Men belong to Magneto now." Everyone's like, "Why? That does not make sense." And he's like, "Well, you know what? I guess we'll make the best of it."
The two of them, in again almost every incarnation, have this really weird relationship where they were friends for a very long time.
Yeah. I mean, they're Dumbledore. What's his name? Coded, right?
Yeah, or more explicitly, MLK and Malcolm X.
Okay, I was just thinking there are a couple. They have to be a couple in some
maybe
they certainly act like it.
I can see it.
I don't have big fights with my partner over whether or not to destroy the whole world, but
Yeah.
And so I thought that was pretty goofy. And it seemed like he actually made an honest stab at being an okay guy.
He tried.
Yeah. I like how he reaches his breaking point and he's like, nope.
Yep,
no more.
We have tried the good guy thing. I'm going back to being Magneto now.
I choose violence. Yeah. But all in all, I give it a solid 8 out of 10. I enjoyed it quite a bit. So if you've not seen it yet, go and check it out. Let me check real quick. Rakesh says the toxic fans sending you hate mail for being a gay Star Wars fan have massive I have secret grinder account energy. Like the guy with with the crazy Cubs suit. Oh, I think he's talking about a guy over on the Star Wars Hub. Which I'm with you there. All right, so that is the end of our show. If we missed any, let us know in the comments what you thought in general about any particular thing. Right after this, in here just a few minutes after we reset, I'm going to have to teach everyone about what happened in the first season of House of the Dragon.
And oh my God, so much happened.
Yeah, so we're gonna get a little drunk, and I'm not going to tell you how many notes I have because it'll just stress you out, and it's going to stress me out too.
Yeah.
But we've got diagrams and pictures, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Hope you can join us. That'll be at 7. And otherwise, thank you for joining us today. You guys are awesome. We love you guys.